Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's webinar of What Turns You On. I'm Dr. Alexandra Katehakis, and today is Monday, October 6th. And we're going to be talking about the topic of fear and shame and sexual insecurities and unwelcome voices in the bedroom today. Also, if you want to leave us a book review on Amazon, that would be amazing. You go to What Turns You On. Let us know what you think about the workbook, how you're using it, how you're sharing it, how it's helped you. Those reviews really make a difference for people when they're searching for resources to help them. And the link for that book will be in the chat box here. And then if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel by clicking the subscribe button below. So that way you never miss a post. You can also keep up with what we're doing here at Center for Healthy Sex by following me at Alex Katehakis or at Center for Healthy Sex, both on Instagram. And lastly, make sure you sign up for our mailing list. You can find that link in the chat box also. And that way you can catch up with our upcoming events, our webinars, services. Sometimes we offer specialty groups. And as always, I would remind you that if you are listening and not in the Los Angeles area and you really need a resource for a therapist or 12-step meeting, to feel free to contact us anytime, 310-843-9902. And we will be happy to give you resources in your area or to support you in any way we can. All right, so this webinar series, which we're actually wrapping up here, December will be the final installation of What Turns You On, a guide to living your best sex life, is designed to help you get honest with yourself about how you feel about sex, how you define sex, what sex means to you today, why you like it, why you don't like it, what aspects of it you do like. And that way, the more you get to know yourself sexually, the more able you are to communicate that to a sexual partner. And I think this is a really important point. I can't stress it enough because our our sexual being changes from decade to decade, sometimes year to year. And there are times when we go through periods where we don't really know who we are sexually, or maybe we've never really asked ourselves that question, or our bodies have changed, but we're not really admitting it. So getting current with who you are, what's happening in your body, what you need, how to accommodate those needs is really a journey that you have to go on. It's no different than, let's say, you had a shoulder that was hurting you. You wouldn't just shoulder on with the shoulder, soldier on with the shoulder. You would go see an orthopedic doctor. And if they said, yeah, there's really no injury there, you'd probably go to physical therapy. And then you'd read about different ways to ice your shoulder and different ways to maybe use anti-inflammatories for your shoulder. There would be a whole bunch of treatments and propositions that would help you get more mobility out of that shoulder. And likewise with your sex life, you want to find out about yourself and what makes your body feel pleasurable and good, and what you actually need to be turned on. And once you know that, then you can have more meaningful exchanges with the sexual partner. So, what are your fears surrounding sex? What are your fears when it comes to sex? Do these fears make you anxious? Do you judge your lovers as harshly as you might judge yourself? Because that's often the case of what happens is that we judge other people as harshly as we judge ourselves. And the less we judge other people means the less we're judging ourselves. So it's always a good compass point to think about when you hear yourself, constantly judging what people look like, how they sound, what they're doing. You're talking to your own self in that way too. So take stock of that, because oftentimes people don't realize that they judge themselves or they're being hard on themselves until they start to look at the way they think about other people. And that level of harshness does not allow for, obviously, self-compassion. So you want to move from being judgmental to being compassionate with the world around us. And it really starts with ourselves. If we don't stop perpetrating violence on ourselves, we can't stop perpetrating it on other people. So, one of the best ways to conquer your fears is to talk about them. Talk about them with a trusted friend, with a therapist, get into a group therapy, or write about them, and then share the writing with a trusted other, because we cannot sort things out on our own because we are such social creatures. We really need other people to listen to us, to give us feedback, to listen without judgment so we can sort out our own thoughts and feelings as we go along. Because fear thrives in isolation, but it's easily deconstructed in the light of day. It's easily deconstructed in a conversation with other people. And even if that means um, reading a book about the topic, where the person who's writing about it, whether it's their sex addiction or their love addiction or being a partner who's been betrayed, it helps us feel less lonely and more able to talk about it with other people. So here are some common fears, concerns, and judgments that people have when it comes to sex and sexuality. Um, So the first one is I won't be able to orgasm. That's like a big concern of people because we think about sex in this very performance-oriented way. We're not trained to or educated to think about sex as a pleasurable experience, a way to connect with our partners, a way to really connect with our own bodies that we can connect with to an extent with ourselves, but to really have that interactive physical, nonverbal, sometimes communication with another human being. And so if you're in your head and you're so focused on whether you're going to orgasm or not, you're not present. You can't possibly enjoy the experience. And you can be sure you won't orgasm because you're so focused on it. Another one similarly is I'm not going to last long enough or I'm going to orgasm too quickly. So all of these are anxiety-driven preoccupations. And so once you find yourself in your head, you're not in your body. And if you're not in your body, you can't experience pleasure as much. Sex is going to hurt. If you have concerns about sex hurting, then you should stop right there and go get some help about that. Whether you need to see a pelvic floor specialist or a sex therapist, you need to find out what's going on with you, that is a primary thought that's in your head and that you're bracing yourself for presumably penetration if you think it's going to hurt. And if you're bracing yourself for penetration, it's going to hurt. If you're relaxed, if you're not thinking about that, if penetration feels good to you, then you're not going to be tightening your body and getting more tight. Another one is I'm not good at sex, whatever that means. So, what are you basing that notion on? It may be that you don't have that much sexual experience. So, what do you need to do to learn more about sex? Do you need to read more books about sex? Do you need to watch some ethical pornography or sexual instructional videos? Because there are plenty of those also for people. So, what does that mean to you, thinking that you're not good at sex? And another one is, I don't want a lover to see me naked. I'm self-conscious about my body or parts of my body. And that is all about shame. So when you are really working with the shame that you have, and that's really what we're talking about here is fear and shame in the bedroom, then that starts to dissipate. When you are grateful that you have a body, that if you're lucky, you are able-bodied. And even if you're disable-bodied, you still have parts of your body that you feel sensations. To be grateful and in gratitude for that is very different than this kind of self-conscious, egoic concern about what do my body looks like, or what do my legs look like, or what is somebody thinking about me? All of that takes you out of the sexual experience And then it becomes about your own little neuroses and your own little anxiety as opposed to an interactive experience with your partner. Someone writes, I feel like I'm more concerned that my partner is enjoying themselves. And if I'm turning them on, many lovers around my age have erectile dysfunction, and I'm worried it's me. Well, look, being a generous lover is important, but there's also something about being Jack Moran, a famous sexologist, talked about being sexually ruthless. And he wasn't talking about non-consensual sex. He was talking about taking what you want when it comes to pleasure, wanting pleasure and feeling entitled to pleasure. So if you are struggling with erectile dysfunction or you're afraid of it, or you have age-related sexual decline, then so what? What are the things that bring you pleasure? What are the things that make your body feel good? Can you experiment with those energies instead of being so focused on erection and make erection a non-issue? That is not the reason that you're there or you're in concert with your consort. You're there to give and receive pleasure, to see what feels good, to see what really arouses you, not to go to performance or penetration. Another concern is I make stupid faces or sounds. And that again is part of the same kind of shame and self-consciousness. So people make faces and sounds when they cry, when they laugh, when we have sex. It's all of who we are. And a face is tied very tightly to our nervous system. So of course, those faces are going to change under different circumstances. Your face changes when you're screaming at a ball game, or cheering somebody on. So look at your shame when you start to be outside of yourself and you're concerned about what other people are thinking about you. That is a shame state. Likewise, people might feel like they're too loud or they're too quiet. If you think you're too loud, ask yourself, why am I so loud? Is that just my natural sexual expression, or am I nervous? Am I punctuating? Am I performing? Am I trying to be loud because that's what I saw in porn and that's what I think guys like? Am I too quiet because I'm afraid to breathe, or I'm worried about what my partner's going to think about me? So investigate those energies. Look closely at all of them. One is I'm not going to be able to satisfy my partner. And that is not really your concern. If your focus is on your pleasure and feeling good, then your partner is either going to get on the board with that or they're not. And together you discover something, a third something. And that way sex can be different and novel every time. If it's all about, oh, can I get my partner off? Or I think this is how they get off, then I'm externally focused. If I'm really there or we're there together to explore pleasure and to see what emerges, then we don't have to worry about satisfaction. The satisfaction just naturally comes. Another concern is I can't orgasm without thinking about something or someone else. And that's not the worst thing in the world by any means. I mean, partner replacement fantasy is probably one of the number one fantasies that people have during sex. But if it's the only way you can have sex, then you want to investigate why that is, why your partner is not arousing or erotic enough to you, what's missing in your sex life with that partner. And are you fixated on one particular sex act or fetish, which then narrows your sexual experience? And so the idea is to broaden your experience. Some males might feel like I'm not big enough, long enough. A female might feel like her vaginal canal is not tight enough. All of this, again, is a scrupulous self-consciousness about one's body. And until you make friends with all of your body parts, like these are the hands you got, these are the feet you got, these are the abs you got, these are the leg lengths you got, You have to be in profound acceptance and gratitude of your own body before you can give your body to someone else and really experience pleasure in the way that I'm talking about. I'm not strong enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not sexy enough, I'm not cool enough. All of this is self-consciousness as well. If you want to be stronger, go lift weights. If you want to be prettier, take a look in the mirror. What do you need to do? Do you need to have your hair cut? Do you want to wear different kind of makeup or no makeup? What does it mean for you to be sexy or sensual? How do you define that? And this is part of what the investigation of and of the question, what turns you on, is demanding. Who are you? What do you like? Why do you like it? When did you start liking it? Where do you get these ideas from? So find yourself sexually first, and the rest falls into place. And another one is I'm too old, I'm too young. Remember, there's somebody for everybody, and there's really no such thing as too old or too young anymore. Well, too young, definitely. It's illegal. If somebody's under the age of 18, they are too young. So again, be careful about how you think about these things. Some worries people might have is that they'll get pregnant or get someone else pregnant, which is why all of this, that and getting an STD or transferring an STD to somebody else, this is why consent conversations and conversations on the front end about birth control and things of that nature are really important so that you're not stressing out about that or worrying about that while you're having sex. And then being concerned about being judged for the things that you like. And one of the ways to take care of some of that is that when you are first going out with somebody or dating them, or even if you've just met them and you're going to have casual sex, that you let them know that you're into, you have a into kink and what that means exactly, because that's a very broad conversation, or that you have a fetish. Don't be springing that on somebody in the middle of sex because it's not consensual. If you're not comfortable with it, then you're not really ready to introduce it into your sex life with somebody else. So when you get comfortable, then you can talk about it matter-of-factly. And then the person that you're on a date with will either be curious about it and interested, or they will shut down and say they're not interested. And then that's the end of the date and you move on. And if then also a feeling like I'll want you to leave as soon as we're done. That is really a fear that has to do with avoidance and a fear of intimacy. And if that's the feeling that you have after you orgasm with somebody, after you have sex with them, and it doesn't matter if it's somebody you've just had sex with or you're married, because I've had people talk about this in marital situations, you have to look at why you're so avoidant of intimacy, what scares you about being close in. It's very easy to meet a stranger and have sex with them because it's hot and it's novel and it's arousing. It's much more difficult to have pillow talk afterwards, to face another person in close proximity in an open-hearted way. That is a much deeper level of intimacy that is not sex. And if that's a place where you get hung up or stuck or scared, then I really encourage you to go to therapy for that and find out what's underneath that. Some judgments would be this will change our friendship or things are going to be different after this, which is true. Once you shift something or change a relationship, it's different after that. So if you go from being friends to lovers, you're no longer going to have the friendship you have, which is why it's worth really examining and weighing, do I want to lose this friendship over sex or not? Or do I just want to leave things as they are? um, the other person's going to become attached to me if I have sex with them. And if that's true, then don't we have some sort of ethical responsibility if we are going to hook up with somebody who's vulnerable, who we know is going to get attached or want to be in a relationship with us, and we don't want to be in relationship with them? there's something important about passing on that and saying, I'm not going to have sex with that person because I won't be able to give them what they want or need. And I can see that coming. I definitely see it, and I don't want to be a party to it. And then the judgment that this person is a slut or they're a player or this makes me a slut. All of those labels and judgments are something you want to be careful about also. And likewise, the things that I'm into sexually are not normal or they're too wild. Or again, these are all about judgment, that I'm going to be judged somehow, or I'm going to judge you because of my discomfort, as opposed to how do I stay curious? How do I stay open? How do I discover things about myself sexually that might surprise me or scare me or not like what that says about me because of the meaning I make around it? And likewise, a feeling that my fantasies are dark or too twisted or odd or would have people, scare people off. Again, this is why you've got to get right with what's true for you. It may be challenging, but it's important to take some time to write down as many of your fears and insecurities as you have that have to do with sex and your sexuality. And after you make that list, think about what you most want to work on. Let's say you have 6 things on that list. What are the top 3? And of the top 3, what's the top one thing that probably encompasses all the rest? And really commit to um, making changes in that way. And is it as simple as making a decision to change, or do you need help from a friend or from a professional? And only you can answer that. And if you need help, are you willing to ask for it? Are you willing to pay for it? Because you have to pay for therapy. What value does that have for you? I'm always interested in how much money people will spend on disposable items, whether it's, clothing or I don't know, electronics or any number of stuff that we all buy that ends up eventually getting donated or sadly goes to landfill. And if every time you go to buy something, to ask yourself, do I really want this thing or is this money I should be putting into my therapy or vacation fund? What's going to give me the greatest joy? And if right now you're struggling with your sexuality, instead of going on vacation, maybe you want to consider getting into therapy and really working through these issues. So, figuring out where you're stuck, where your judgments are, where your shame and fear is, what holds you back, and then committing to make the change, and then what is the support you need to make the change, is where the rubber meets the road. So, where shame is concerned, remember that you're in control. If shame shows up when you're thinking about sex or you're having sex, just gently ask shame to um, let go. And if it resists, imagine putting shame into a locked, concealed container where it can't get out. And just do that simply by closing your eyes and imagining what shame looks like. And then imagining a container that's got a big padlock on it or some, basement underground or something that you can lock it up in where it can't get out. And you can do this especially on a first date or when you're having sex, you're going to have sex with your partner and you're working through shame, let's say in therapy before sex. Just take a few minutes to visualize that you're leaving shame out of the picture, that it's not invited into the bedroom. And that is a way for you to start to take some control of shame, and your fears as you venture further into sex. So it really has to be a shuttling back and forth of doing the kind of writing that I'm talking about, the journaling, the investigation, using the workbook if you're called to do it, and then see if you can distill it down to what are the 3 things, or maybe the one major thing that's in my way. And then I'm going to go get some help. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to go to therapy, maybe go to a 12-step meeting if that's indicated and start to work through this shame so I can have a sex life, and maybe a sex life that I've never imagined before because I don't know what it could be without my fear and shame and judgments. And then start to have sex so you can experiment. You can't say, I'm going to go learn a new skill, like I'm going to go learn to dance and read a bunch of books on jazz dancing, and go hire a jazz dance teacher to tell you about jazz dance. Eventually, you have to go to a class. You have to take the class and feel like you're all left feet and that you don't know what you're doing and it's embarrassing. But slowly but surely, what feels impossible becomes difficult, and what becomes difficult becomes easy, and eventually what's easy becomes beautiful. So give yourself the gift of getting to know yourself sexually, of saying goodbye to shame and fear, and see if you can free yourself up, because growing ourselves up sexually is an adult developmental task, and it's not one that ever ends. We are driven by sex in our 20s. We are driven to procreate in our 30s. In our 40s, we're driven to build businesses, but in our 50s and 60s, especially, we have the luxury of exploring our sexuality, of finding out who we are without the drive, without the need to have a child. But just ask yourself, who am I an adult, and what does my adult sexual body feel like and look like, and what kind of sex do I want to have? So I hope you all have fun with this topic and that you make this investigation. And as always, we're here to help you. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. And I look forward to seeing you in November.